What is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, we have a very special local guest that Tony's going to introduce.
This is Lonnie Whitlock. He's the owner of Iron Society here in Fort Wayne. I actually met him at a Chipotle, and I was like, dang, look at that guy's body build. He looks like he put some time in. And then after I started talking to him, I was like, oh, I actually do know this guy. So I just sat down to him at Chipotle. I was like, hey, how you doing? We started talking. And then after I remembered who he was, he looked familiar. I was like, oh, you know what? Just during the conversation, he was being authentic. He was being genuine. I could tell he was being himself, and he was a good dude. And I was like, we need to have you on the podcast. It'd be valuable for people. So thanks for coming on, Lonnie. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So when I was talking to you, we were talking about some of your early struggles, and we ended up talking about the housing market a little bit since I'm in real estate.
Yeah.
And you talked about concrete, working hard, working long hours, doing lots of different things. And over the course of, you said that you've been in the fitness industry now for 33 years. Mm-hmm. How did you end up in the fitness industry, especially in the Midwest?
Yeah.
You know, this isn't LA, so it's tougher. I would imagine that it's tougher to make it here. I don't actually know what I'm talking about. You're going to have to educate me. But, you know, when it comes to getting into fitness in the Midwest, why did you decide to go after something that ordinarily people around here would be like, yeah, I'm not going to touch that. That sounds like a difficult task.
As far as the fitness industry goes, I started when I was 16 years old, like everybody else. You know, I just went to the gym because I was a skinny kid. You know, I'm the cliche. I graduated high school at like 115 pounds and 6 feet tall. Wow. My girlfriend at the time, which is now my current wife, Nikki, she actually outweighed me. So, yeah, I just started working out to try to, you know, not get beat up, and, you know, fell in love with it. It was something that, you know, I did all the way through the military, and then, you know, just kept up with. So, yeah, this is 33 years that I've been in and around the fitness industry. So it's been a long time. I've seen a lot of things come and go, a lot of trends and a lot of fads, and, you know, but ultimately, gyms can never be, and I know a lot of companies, you know, talking about educating you about the fitness industry, they're trying to move everything online. You know, they're trying to do as much virtual stuff as they can, which isn't a bad thing. But ultimately, the gym is a place where people go to not just get healthy and take care of themselves, but it's a community, you know? I mean, that's why we named it Iron Society. You know, it's a society of people who are, you know, just trying to be better than they were yesterday. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, as you were getting into it, what age were you when you first decided that you were going to become a gym owner? What made you decide, I want to own it? I want to own a gym and have all the headaches that go along with owning a gym.
Yeah. 2019 when I bought this one.
Wow.
No, I always wanted one, all the way back to, I'm going to say probably 97, 98. So I got out of the military in 97. And I joined a gym back then. It was called Power Station. It's in Middletown, Ohio. It's still there. It was a very much a hardcore gym. Dirt on the floor, like, you know, older equipment and stuff like that. Like a really cool place. Like I would want to go. Mm-hmm. But the average person, you would never go in there. I wanted a gym back then, but when I started to look into how much it cost, because I think people don't really realize how expensive these things are. Like, for instance, one 90-pound set of dumbbells is $225. Mm-hmm. That's for one set of dumbbells, you know, and I think we have 45 sets at each gym.
Jeez.
So, I mean, the dumbbells is, you know, and that's just one thing.
Right.
So when you're, you know, in your mid-20s, looking at, you know, $500,000 to $1 million to set up a gym, that's not happening.
Yep.
Not to mention, banks hate gyms just like they hate restaurants, so you can't get them financed. Everything that my wife and I have done up to this point has been out of pocket. We have no financing. Everything is paid for 100%. Excuse me. So it's been bootstrapping it the whole way. DuPont was $1.8 million.
For everything?
Just to build it.
Oh,
yeah,
just to build it.
Just to build it and outfit it. Yeah, so everything. Yes,
Okay.
you're correct.
Okay.
When it was built. So if you look at that as an example, that's a 20,000 square foot big box gym. At 1.8 million back in 2011 is when they built that.
Wow.
In today's money, that's probably what, 2.5?
Yeah, at least.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
So the prospect of doing that for the average person isn't going to happen. And me, when I was in my 20s, wasn't going to happen. So in 2019, we had an opportunity. Speece was falling apart. Tom Speece, who was a friend of mine, known him for years, did pass away, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
But prior to that, he was going through a bankruptcy, going through financial hard times.
What time was this, 08? Or?
This would have been 2000 and I think it started in 17.
Okay.
So, and pretty much by 19, we knew that he was going to lose the building. We didn't know who was going to buy it. We had no idea what they were going to do with that gym. And honestly, Speece was my gym. That was my home gym. So it was big. It was great. I loved it. The equipment was very old and broken most of the time, but it was still a big space.
And the pandemic didn't help.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So in 19, I got introduced to the owner of Max Fitness. He was going bankrupt as well. So being very central to the bodybuilding community, if Max closes and Speece closes, where are we all going to work out? I mean, that's literally the only thing I thought. So when I said 2019 was when I decided, I wanted to become a gym owner, it was almost a force of I have to, because otherwise we have the Y and Planet Fitness.
Right.
That's about it. So we decided to jump in. We looked at buying Speece. At the time, there was over $8 million in cost renovations and code violations that had to be brought up to code. That's not going to happen. For $8 million, I can build a really nice building and have a really nice gym.
Brand new.
Right. So I was like, okay, I'm out. Then we went to the Max Fitness deal. That was a much better deal. Cashed in all of our 401k, leveraged our house, all three of them.
Wow.
And decided we're going to go all in on this thing. And so we did. We made our first profit, $300, in, I believe it was February of 2020, because it was the very next month the government came in and said you have to shut down. First profit, and then when they shut us down. When they shut us down, we stopped billing, because I can't, in good conscience, bill people for something they can't use. I'm not 100% sure on this. I was told this by a couple other people. Other facilities in town didn't do that. They kept billing.
Yeah.
We stopped.
Wow.
So for 2 months, we didn't get any revenue.
Wow.
We didn't have the backup. So talking about the pandemic, I had 3 heart attacks in 20 because of that pandemic. The first one was in May. So just stress induced.
Holy crap.
Wow.
Yep.
That generates a lot.
So this will be funny. We can cut this if you don't like this.
No, it's fine.
So I, whenever I'm doing research, I have a pretty good system, and I saw I think about Dakota and I and how there's always opportunities, in traffic where you want to beat somebody's ass. I saw that you got into some Fast and the Furious type shit where you were drag racing some cars and stuff like that. I was like, Lonnie seems like one of those guys you wouldn't want to mess with. And so I'm wondering with your personality and things like that, do you think you don't want to mess with me, I'm not going to quit type attitude is something that helped you overcome the challenges? Do you
100%.
think that, yeah?
Yeah. I always tell people, and I'm not smarter than anybody, I'm not better than anybody. I think I'm just too dumb to quit. I don't like to fail. It doesn't work for me. And I've failed many, many, many times in my life, and that's just part of life. But I don't like it. It didn't feel good, so I try not to do it. The drag racing thing, that was actually me and a buddy of mine. We were leaving one of my shops. So I used to build cars for a living.
Oh, wow.
And that was my second business attempt. It was a Wicked Customs at Whitlock Automotive.
Okay.
And we were leaving the shop one night. We were tired. We just finished building one of our cars. And I raced turbocharged Hondas back then. So I had a little 89.
That was some real Fast and the Furious stuff.
Yeah, it
You're
was.
going underneath semis and stuff too.
Yeah, no, that is all make believe.
You put the neon underneath of it.
No, that one I never did. I never got into that. I don't know why. It just never appealed to me.
Did you have a big ass wing on the back of it or anything?
No, I didn't have that either. What I had was I did have a roof scoop, which was kind of dumb. Now that I look back at it, it's like that was stupid because it was totally pointless. But no, I had a little Civic hatchback, 1989 Civic hatchback that I had bought out of a junkyard for $150, and built the engine, turbocharged it. We went through and did the whole block.
Did you build the Frankenstein version?
Yes.
Where you everybody was doing that.
Yep. It was very popular back then. But we were leaving the shop one night. I had a crazy loud exhaust on my car. He had a crazy loud exhaust. We were actually just sitting at a stoplight, like piping each other. And this cop down the street comes racing up, screaming at us, and tells us to pull the F over. And pulls us out of the car. And we're like, we didn't do anything. He said, well, I heard you racing. It's like, you heard? We didn't sit here at a stoplight. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So, yeah. So that was the whole drag racing incident.
Oh,
That's funny.
Yeah, it was bad. I wasn't even racing. I'm not going to say I haven't done that, but I wasn't doing that then.
Right. That's awesome.
It's like, well, even though you weren't, I knew that you've done it before. So I'm gonna give you a ticket. We're gonna figure this out.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm a huge car fanatic. So
a young kid comes to you and says, Lonnie, you're an inspiration. You're a gym owner. I want to own a gym too. What's the science and strategy behind a winning as a gym owner? How do I do it? How do I make it work? What do I do? What's the first thing I do? What's the second thing I do?
Go to work in a gym. Work in a gym for at least 3 to 5 years. Reason being, there are a lot of nuances that people don't even realize. We spend a lot of time just looking at traffic patterns in our gym to alleviate congestion, to keep a lot of the groupings of people moving around the gym. The actual flow of the equipment and how everything's laid out matters. People coming into the gym, as they come in the front door, I have to look through my front door as if I've never been in a gym before. What do I want to see? What is going to intimidate me? What's not going to intimidate me? Because one of the biggest hangups that people have for getting healthier and changing their life and taking that step is they walk in the door and they are terrified because that room is intimidating to most people. All they see is a bunch of stuff they've never seen before. It looks like torture equipment to them, and they just want to run away. So having a layout that is pleasing but yet gives them an idea of what they're getting themselves into does matter. And then the other thing that I would warn them about is cost. Excuse me. It is way more expensive than you think it is. Like I said, the dumbbell example. But most people getting into the gym business, they are passionate about fitness. They need to be just as passionate about business. It's not something that you can go into because you're a personal trainer and you really love to help people get healthy. If you want a studio, sure, you can do that in your garage. We have currently 50,000 square feet under roof right now.
Wow.
That's a lot of real estate. My rent is right around $65,000 a month. That's just my rent checks. So it's not cheap to run these businesses. Each gym costs me on average $40,000 to $45,000 a month, not including payroll.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a huge commitment.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and honestly, we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the absolute best.
RE Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records incoming phone calls.
The system is very easy to use, and honestly, it has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try RE Simply today.
Click the link in the description below.
Check it out now.
Yeah, I want to talk about that actually. You said something that actually I already wrote down was fitness and business. I find that there's a lot of similarities in fitness and business, and then also like there's some differences because obviously everybody that's good at business isn't always fit, and the people that are fit aren't always good at fitness, like you said. So what are the things that you think are the same that's like, man, these are the same principles and this is why it's important? Like, do you think that it's both important to have both, or how do you feel about all of it?
Both, as in, having the business acumen and also having the drive to be in the fitness industry?
Yeah, both in general, because I believe that fitness is actually going to make you better in business. If you're good at fitness and you're actually taking care of yourself, you're actually going to be better. So like that's 100%. One way that I see it. But yeah.
Like the connection between body, mind, spirit, and success.
Sure.
So when you look at somebody and they're not that fit and they're good at business, or they're bad at business and they're really fit. Like, what is make an argument for fitness with business, having both?
There's several different arguments that could be made. One of them is the parallel between fitness and business. I mean, you show up and you do exercises you don't want to do in a room you probably don't want to be in, at a time of the day when most people are sleeping, because the average person works out, especially professionals work out usually in the morning. Or late at night when there's not a lot of people there. And you do these things day after day after day and see zero results. You can't go to the gym one day and do a bench press and go home and see, oh wow, my chest is growing. You just know that over the next week, month, year, 10 years, you're going to get there. It's no different than in business. But you have to maintain that mentality, because unlike fitness is something that it manages a whole lot of other things other than just your physical body. A lot of guys use it. We have a lot of veterans that go to our gym, and a lot of police officers that were former active duty. And so they use it for, PTSD management. They use it for, just mental clarity. It's as much mental as it is physical. Business is all mental. There's no physical. So it's far easier to quit that than it is to quit fitness. Plus, we've been told for years now, well, working out, that benefits you, it helps you. We don't talk about that with business. We're taught in school, we go to school for 12 years, if you leave high school, that, stand in line, raise your hand, we'll tell you when to eat, we'll tell you when to go to the bathroom, all of these things, which I'm completely against the school system as it is. I think it needs to be overhauled. It's been the same way for 100 years. We're not the same world we were 100 years ago. But we're not taught anything in that school setting that teaches us and prepares us for actual life. It prepares us to be an employee. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
So with fitness, I learned how to persevere in ways that I could never learn in any kind of educational system. So when it came to business, I would always parallel, hey, I just trained for the last 5 years to gain, 12 pounds of muscle. If 5 years ago, I would have told myself, hey, you're going to kill yourself for the next 5 years and you're only going to gain 12 pounds of muscle. I might not have done that, but I did. And it's not much different in business. Like I said, you come in every day, you guys come in every day and you do the same things. You make the calls. Do you really want to make the calls? No, but you have to. It's just the reps you have to do to get where you want to be.
What's the difference then between, because I see a lot of guys that are in fitness and that, like you said, are not successful in business, but they're freaking ripped as crap. You know what I mean? So what's the difference then between somebody who's in fitness and somebody who's good at business?
I would say mindset. Some people that are in fitness just want to be in fitness. Like right now, one of the most popular things that I've been researching myself is a lot of people want to be fitness influencers because that allows them to make money off of their craft and their hobby, but it doesn't require any business acumen. They basically just post videos and they get paid for it. That's fine. That's a world that I never thought would exist, 20, 30 years ago when I started. But some people just don't have any business being in business. They just don't. It does take a higher level of out-of-the-box thinking that I don't think a lot of people can do. I think they could probably teach themselves, but I also don't think they're going to want to go through the pain of learning that because it's challenging. You have to be very, very risk tolerant, and you have to love certain levels of anxiety and fear. We don't live in that world anymore. You know, a lot of people want comfort. And I think I've heard you guys even say it, but it's an old saying, you know, success is just on the outside of your comfort zone. That's where it's at. You know, if you're happy being comfortable, you're probably not going to be very successful. So, yeah.
I like it.
When you were talking about your wife, you were talking about how you sort of were in this together and you were, you know, leveraging the houses. It's like a relationship decision. It sounds like your relationship is pretty good since your wife is actively involved in the business too. So there's some people out there that don't have that.
Sure.
And what do you credit your relationship success for? I'm sure it's evolved and changed and looked different over the years. How have you stayed together? How have you made it work? What does your relationship look like now?
Very strong. My wife and I have been together, I'll say off and on, since we met in 1990.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been 30, 33, 34 years. We met when we were 15. Through a mutual friend, and I left for the Navy. She went to college. We broke up, and she actually ended up getting married while I was in service, and so she was married in a not so good relationship, but got divorced. I think in 2009 or 2010. Excuse me, but yeah, we got back together, and I was homeless at the time, living out of my car. She had just moved in with her mother. Neither one of us had anything. She went through her divorce, lost everything. So, and my relationship fell apart, and I was living in my car. We dedicated ourselves to becoming the best us we could be. We went back to school. We got our degrees. Excuse me. And started, I guess, just building a life that we wanted. We never lost sight of that vision, and we dedicated ourselves to us and that vision, and that was it. We didn't let anybody else in. We didn't let anybody else stop us. We were just going to do this thing, because at the time, we were in our 30s. We'd already been through bad relationships. We had already had our lives completely ripped apart. We were about as low as anybody could be. And then we just decided, you know what, this is our goal. This is where we're going to get. And, 14 years later, we're farther than we thought we would be. But the advice I would give, support system is everything. If you're not married, if you're a single person, make friends, lean on your family if you can. I know a lot of people don't have that, but there are a lot of people out there that are willing to help. You do have to ask. They're not going to just show up and hand it to you. But a support system is absolutely critical. I mean, I can only imagine you guys know that, very, very well. If all you had was each other, none of this existed, you would still be successful, because you have a good support system. So that would be the best advice I could give, would be make sure you have a strong, stable support system. And I know that, a lot of people think they can do it on their own. You cannot. You can achieve very, very little success by yourself. It takes a team of people. And, even if you, use your church, use at the gym. I mean, that's literally where I met everybody I know, is at the gym. That was my happy place. That was where I went to clear my head, to meet like-minded people. And over the years, I have met some of the most amazing people I've ever had the opportunity to meet in that place.
Do you know Alex Hormozy? Have you ever heard of him?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yep. So I heard him talk about this Planet Fitness model. And I thought it was very interesting. I never even thought about it, but for anybody that doesn't know, basically Planet Fitness, he said that they make it to where they don't want people to come in. So they make their gyms in a way that's going to detract people who actually go to the gym and work out from coming there.
Yes.
And so that way they can make more money and be profitable.
Yep.
Whereas like I think about Iron Society is the exact opposite of that, where it's like this is more trying to get people to come in who
100%.
actually work out, who use the equipment, but then the more they use it, the more stuff breaks down. So how do you figure out exactly, obviously you care about the fitness industry and you care about those people, but then you got to be profitable too. And so then the more stuff you do, like how do you balance those? And like, what's your ultimate goal for all of us? Is it to get people to come in and work out or, like what's your goals?
100%. I don't really want a gym that nobody uses. Now, the reality is there has to be some of those people because there's physically not enough space in a gym to put everybody you need to pay for it. You asked about profitability. We are, but barely. We work off about a 2.5% to 3% margin.
Wow.
So it's not a profitable business whatsoever. Where the Planet Fitness model, actually, I sat in on one of their investor briefings once, and they have an 80-20 model, which is, out of 100%, 20% actually use it, 80% pay for it, and don't come back.
Yep.
One of the old executives is a friend of mine, and she was telling me that it's actually more like 8 to 12% that actually come in and use the gym. So as far as an ATM model, Planet Fitness is great. The colors that they chose was specifically to be the most detracting colors. That's why it's purple and yellow. Those are the colors that are most likely to push people away. Literally why they painted it that way. Their entire model is to never have you come in.
Right.
Ours is just the opposite. We are heavy in equipment. We continuously buy equipment because we want you to come in. But we also want to make sure that we have enough equipment to house, as many people as we possibly can. Our goal is to impact as many people as humanly possible while we're in existence. We want to help as many people as we can be healthy. That's it. That's our overall, overreaching goal.
Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We show you where to find the money, how to find the deals, and how to negotiate the deals.
We go over live sales calls, including negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's a video that we didn't make that you want, we'll make it for you.
This knowledge has made us well over $1 million, and it's available right now for $9.97. Click the link below.
Buy the course.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny you kind of talked about egress and that sort of thing because I find myself getting ticked off at the YMCA a lot with just like all of the people that you have to brush past in order to get to these different areas.
Yeah.
I don't think they intentionally designed it that way. I just think that that's the YMCA in general. It's just like, okay, all of the weight training equipment is over here to keep like all the thugs over here. I'm a thug. And then all of the, this is over here to keep all the old people over here.
Yep.
And they have such a mix of folks too. I think it's kind of interesting. I was contemplating this, how originally the YMCA was founded because the Puritans decided that it wasn't holy to do something with your body. And so they started the Young Men's Christian Academy. It was only men.
Correct. Yep.
And
Exactly
now it's almost no young men. It's high schoolers, it's boys really.
Yeah.
And younger. And then it's old folks. And if you do anything where you're like yelling or grunting or whatnot, they don't have the same policy as Planet Fitness. But they still might come have a conversation with you, and there's like this air of like judgment and like, it's like
100%.
They've lost their roots, and it's just become a place that's like a community center for old folks and young folks, and that's it.
I don't know when they did it, but they actually officially changed their name.
To the Y.
And they're no longer actually the Young Men's Christian Association at all. They have no ties to that whatsoever. They are simply a 503c that large corporations can dump money into. And I did this because I was curious on their class schedules. We have a lot of people ask if we would do more classes. As an independent gym or any gym really, classes lose you money. You make no money on your classes. You have a lot of space that you have to dedicate to it. You can't use it for anything else, and it's just it's a losing proposition. But for the Y, it's great because they know they're going to lose money on it, so it's a way for them to dump capital and be able. So that's why they have like 32 classes a day.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my!
It's
gosh.
insane. Like the amount of classes that these guys run. And they'll have like 1 or 2 people in these classes, and they're the same people every week. Like they're the only ones that go there. And so for them, it's great because it's a money dump.
Yeah.
You know, they have to lose money. That's how they keep, you know, their business structure. So it is actually a rec center. It's now filed as a rec center. It's no longer what it used to be. It has no ties to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, so I was at Black Canyon last night. I was actually having dinner with.
I was there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang,
I
dude.
love that place.
Yeah. So there's 2 guys there. It's funny. I was just like in the bathroom using the restroom, and I heard these 2 guys. They're like, "Yeah, dude, I'm taking this TRT and I'm taking this stuff," and like there's talking about this stuff. And so I feel like steroids and like peptides and TRT and like all this different stuff is now becoming. A lot more, I guess, normal would be the best way to describe it.
It is.
And so, one would be like, have you taken steroids before?
Yep.
If other people do, like, what's your recommendations for them? Like any things like that, like safety? Because I've seen other people, like Franson, who talks pretty openly about it, but just like it messed him up, and he's like, dude, and like, so what would your advice be to different people or like younger people who are wanting to do peptides, TRT, all that stuff?
So a couple different things. Let's talk about the steroids first. Yes, I did them in large quantities. I'm around 230 now. At my biggest, I was over 260.
Wow.
So I was a large person. It did its damage, like it does to everybody. There is no such thing as a safe steroid. I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't exist. Would I recommend anybody take them? No, unless you have the genetics to be a professional bodybuilder or a professional athlete in general, which again most people don't have. I don't recommend anybody ever take them. Anytime, so homeostasis in the body is what your body wants all the time. Anything you put in that's endogenous is going to cause other systems to either fail or at least get out of sync with what the body is supposed to be doing. So it's going to cause problems regardless. Young people, this is the bad part of social media. You've got guys taking trenbolone when they're 15, 16 years old. Your growth plates haven't even closed yet. Like, you have no idea what your body could actually do on its own. Eat food. Don't touch the stuff until you're in your mid-20s, because that's normally about where you top out on your testosterone production and things like that. See what your body can actually do naturally. So steroids, don't recommend them. Taking them. I'm on TRT now. I will be on TRT for the rest of my life because of what I did in my 20s. So I completely destroyed my testosterone production system. It'll never be the same. If I come off, when I got checked, when I went on TRT, my testosterone level was 30. You're supposed to be between 250 nanograms per deciliter up to, I think it's 1,100 nanograms per deciliter. I was 30. Wow. Like, it was insanely low. So I was depressed all the time, tired all the time, just horrible quality of life. So went on TRT, feel a lot better. I sit in that 700 range now. That's where my doctor keeps me, and everything's great.
How often do you go in for blood work and stuff like that?
Every 6 months now. I was going in every 3 months for the first 2 years, so we could get the dose right. Yeah, so I've been on it now for about 5 years. But yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, there's a lot of steroids that if you're buying them and you're using them in the gym, they're probably made in somebody's bathtub. Like, they're not good, and you have no idea what's in there. It's just not recommended. If you want to do it, try to go through a healthcare professional or an organization that can at least monitor what kind of gear you're running.
Is there anything like that in Fort Wayne or anything like no medical Indianapolis or?
Not that I know of. So there's several different like online clinics that people are using now. But one of the most prominent ones that I'm checking out right now is called Ways to Well out of Houston, Texas, I believe. But they have a very progressive protocol that they're using because they understand people are going to use it anyway. Mm-hmm. Is there a way that we can do it and make it safer? Again, there is no such thing as a safe steroid, but there are ways that it can be made a little bit safer. So the other part of that question was peptides. Mm-hmm. Now, peptides are something completely different.
Yeah, walk us through the difference between peptides, TRT, steroids. Like, what's the difference between everything?
So TRT and steroids are essentially the same thing. It's both injecting an endogenous anabolic compound into your body. The difference between TRT and just general steroid use is TRT is monitored very closely by a doctor. It's done based on your blood work and your current blood markers to make sure that you're taking the optimal dose to give you back what your body already produced at one time. So it's not just throwing some drugs in there and going, hey, we're just going to take this much. Peptides, on the other hand, are an amino acid chain. A small amino acid chain that's a secretog or a signaling agent that tells the body, hey, it needs to make this protein. So each one is different. Each one has a different function. The most common that I'm sure you guys have probably already heard of is like BPC 157, TB 500, HCG is also a peptide. All of these compounds, so BPC stands for body protective compound, and it's 15 amino acids in a 7-branch chain. Okay, so that's where that number comes from. When injected into the body, it helps create a protein strand that helps repair soft tissues, wound healing, things like this. TB500 is similar in nature, but it concentrates more on just surface wound healing. So it doesn't do as much with the soft tissues. So if you're going to choose one over the other, I'd choose BPC 157.
And peptides are injections?
This is all injections. This is all injections. Peptides are typically injected water-based, so you can use an insulin needle. They're sub-Q, so subcutaneous, just right underneath the skin. You don't feel it. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't leave a knot. It's not like oil-based anabolic steroids and TRT, where that's going to be an oil base. So that needs to be injected into the muscle, intermuscular, and it needs to be done very deeply. So typically you're putting it in your shoulder or your glute.
Pulling data lists like vacant houses, mortgage foreclosures, and tax delinquent properties is important to direct-to-seller marketing.
Batch Leads is the main platform where we store our sellers' data and skip trace owners for their phone numbers, emails, and addresses.
On other platforms, you end up having to pay twice for the same contact if you've already skip traced it. My favorite thing about Batch Leads is that if you skip traced a contact once, you never have to pay for that contact again.
Batch Leads has SMS texting campaigns, direct mail marketing, and Driving for Dollars app integrated in a simple-to-use interface.
Click the link below and try Batch Leads today.
Wow.
Yeah. I got some blood work done by 10X Health.
Okay.
And they have me on a lozenge. It's just 500 micrograms gonadorelin to stimulate the pituitary gland to secrete more testosterone.
Yep.
And
it's a similar compound to HCG.
Unfortunately, the last time that they had me go get blood work done, it said some stuff in there like, if you're taking any testosterone type stuff, like get off of it like a few days before the test. And then they're like, oh, your testosterone hasn't moved at all. And I was like, well, you told me not to. So there was some miscommunication because I would like to know what it gets me up to, because I know that like it has like a 2 to 3 day curve before it drops back off.
It does.
So I really only take it like every 3 days or so.
Sure.
And then, I'm just curious because it's been incremental. It hasn't been like this dramatic change or anything like that. I know that it's a lot safer than other alternatives, and I was just genuinely interested in trying it. So I'm going to stay on it for now and see how it plays out.
It's very beneficial. So one of the things that we've noticed I don't know who that is, sorry. One of the things that we've noticed in some of the research that I've been doing recently, if you go back about 50 years ago, and I can't remember her name, I was looking it up before I came here because I figured we'd talk about this. There was a researcher out of MIT that had collectively put together about 50 years worth of data research on male testosterone production over time. Okay. And so she took a 50-year swath of, I think she started it, at 20, And she figured out that on average, the human male loses about 1 point per year. So essentially, if you start out, let's say you start out with 100, 100 testosterone score. By the time you're 50, 60 years old, you're probably going to be around 50%. In the last 20 years, because of the introduction in the 80s to plastics and some of the chemicals that are in plastics that keep plastics soft, they found that that has gone up 2.7 times the loss reduction. So essentially now, men by the time they're 40 have the testosterone level of men that were in their 90s in the 1950s. So we have lost, by the time we're 40 years old, almost 80%, some, not all, almost 80% of our testosterone producing capacity because of these chemicals. The research is very compelling. There's not a lot of data to back it up other than test level checks. They haven't done any kind of, internal research in males to see if it's actually the plastics or is it, a host of other things. But the one thing that keeps showing up is we're losing way more testosterone now than we ever have in the past. It's also food production, all the chemicals that's in our food. We eat almost nothing that doesn't have some type of chemical in it. It was funny. I heard an ad. I want to say it's been a few years. It was for Kroger beef versus Walmart beef. And they were talking about the ingredients label. I'm sure you heard it.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. And the question was, why do you have an ingredients label in beef? Like, why do you need that? But it's true. We put something in everything we eat. So that's where TRT has come from. That's why it's so prevalent now versus what barely existed 10 years ago. And then peptides have actually been around for decades. They're used in European and Asian medicine and have been for many, many, many years. Last thing I heard, I was listening to Andrew Huberman, and I think he said somewhere around like 80 or 90 years that these things have actually been around. We're just now learning about them because we have an FDA that really doesn't care about people. They care about profits. So because of that, we're not going to hear about anything that's actually beneficial.
Yeah. So based on what you've seen now, would you recommend peptides to somebody? Because like basically where I'm at is like, so Ryan Pineda is our coach and stuff, and he started taking them. He's getting freaking massive, which is crazy to me. Like his forearms just look bigger, everything. Like he's like gotten a lot bigger. Yeah. The thing that stops me from doing anything like that, like I've never taken anything ever, and it's like because I don't want to stop producing the testosterone or like limit anything or take anything away from what's going to happen. So whenever my body does stop doing like actually producing at the same levels, then I'm like, okay, obviously I'll do something to keep my testosterone up, but I don't want to do anything that would possibly like make it happen faster, sooner, lower, like anything that would be at all detrimental. Because more important than me just being, I don't care about being jacked or anything like that. I care about being healthy. Healthy is number one for me. And so would you recommend peptides to somebody, or you think that like based on what you've seen, it actually will affect testosterone,
homeostasis,
something in the future?
Yeah, I would 100% recommend peptides. If you just look at the food quality of what we have now versus what we had about 40 years ago, it's nowhere near the same. I mean, just the nutrient density in the food we have now versus what we had 40 years ago doesn't exist. You can look, you can drive down, obviously we live in Fort Wayne, so, we have this huge, agricultural industry that's in this part of the country. Drive around and look at the fields, and I remember as a kid, I grew up in Wilshire, Ohio, so there's like 490 people in that town. It's a farm town. And so when I look at the fields, I saw very dark, rich soil. You don't see that anymore. You see fields that just sit hollowed or hallowed, and it's because we just don't have the nutrients left in the soil. We've stripped it. Years and years and years of farming does that. Now we do try to put it back with nitrogen and some of the other I won't get into it because it's kind of gross, but avenues that they try to put on the soil to increase it, and it does help. It does help, but ultimately, small boutique organic farms, things like that, if you can buy your food there, you're going to be far better off. But with peptides are not synthetic in the sense that testosterone is synthetic. It is a synthetic reproduction of what your body naturally makes. And when you introduce that into your body goes, oh, we already have this. We don't need any more of this. Peptides are a secretagogue. They're a signaling agent. They tell the body, oh, we need to make more of this. So couple of compounds, ipamorelin and tesamorelin, these are secretagogues for HGH. That may be something that your coach is taking because like the BPC and the TB, those aren't going to make you big. Those are just going to help you heal.
Coach is also taking TRT too. He's like 35, 36, 37.
He is taking TRT?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what caused him to gain the 12 pounds, I think.
I thought it was only peptides.
Well, no, the peptides are if you started taking peptides, I think that you would notice an incremental shift in your energy and an incremental shift in your overall physiology, but it wouldn't be like magic.
No.
Like what our coach did was magic because he's taking TRT as well on top of the peptides.
Well, TRT by itself is also not something that's going to give you a whole lot of increased, muscularity or anything like that. What you usually find is, so there's a little bit of a misnomer that, TRT builds muscle. It actually doesn't. What it does do is allow you to repair it faster. So essentially, testosterone allows you to work out harder for longer, tear down more muscle, and rebuild it faster. So in that sense, it, air quotes, builds muscle. Peptides doesn't do any of that. It simply allows you to, or your body to make more of whatever compound you're lacking. So again, as we get older, certain things start to deteriorate. Human growth hormone is one of them. The two compounds I mentioned, the ipamorelin and the tesamorelin, are two secretagogues that help the pituitary gland and the stomach help to release testosterone. Human growth hormone, not testosterone. I misspoke.
So does by taking that stuff to make your body produce it more, make it produce less in the future, or is it not?
No.
Okay.
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and when I just skipped 5 days of taking mine, they looked at what my numbers were and they were the same as before I started taking it. So you can always kind of test and check and make sure. Like if you want to cycle, you don't really even cycle off of it because you don't get on a cycle to begin with.
Right.
But if you wanted to just get off of it, wait, get your blood work done, check, make sure, because Dakota, I don't know if you care about me sharing your numbers. I was around like 280.
Okay. For a young guy, that's pretty low.
Yeah. And so their range was only 250 to 850. They weren't even going to the 1100 like you're talking about. They were like 250 to 850. We really don't want you any higher than 850, but we'll see where your numbers come in at.
Yep.
And so I was at like 280, and I still do all the things. Like I still am like somewhat conscious of not taking in a lot of like seed oils that are not great for you.
Sure.
I still kind of look at things like, for instance, in college, I got convinced that meat was terrible based on these like four health food documentaries that I was watching. I was like, oh man, I need to go more natural. So I was just like eating a lot of egg and a lot of rice and a lot. I was going to the Mediterranean section all the time.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, I'll drink soy milk because it's high in protein. And then of course the meathead bodybuilder guys that I knew were like, wait, you're drinking soy milk? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, that stuff turns you into a girl, right? And I was like, what? And then I started doing all the research, and I was like, holy crap! I felt more like calm, centered, balanced, at peace, but I was also just like, something doesn't feel right. I feel a little like softer, like I'm just not as strong as I was before. And started looking into it, and those like phytoestrogens, you look on WebMD or you look on some of these government websites.
Oh man,
and
if you look on WebMD, you have cancer.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about phytoestrogens. They're like, it just helps you regulate a normal, it helps regulate testosterone. It doesn't decrease it. And then you look at the bodybuilding.com, and they're all like, dude, stop drinking soy, you're going to get small.
Right. Well, and one thing that I think everybody needs to keep in mind is every single human being is different. Like everybody's body's different. Everybody's going to deal with different chemicals differently. So that's why they make so many medicines and so many different compounds, because everybody's different. But as far as your situation is concerned, Dakota, first thing I would do is blood work. You know, anytime I have ever worked with anybody, and I don't do that kind of work that much anymore, but anytime I ever did, the first thing we did was blood work. Second thing I would do is a food log. Tell me what you eat over 5 days. Don't change it. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Give me the absolute truth. And if you sneak a cookie, or something like that, I want to know. I was working with a mom who did not write down that she would eat all of her kids' leftovers. Her husband told me. She didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And so I started calculating that up based on what he said. She was eating an extra 2,500 calories a day. Couldn't figure out why she was gaining weight.
Wow.
Like, I got an idea.
Yeah.
So, but with you, blood work, food. You need to know where your numbers are, and you need to know what your health markers are. Being a young guy, I can almost guarantee you there's probably no issues, but I think you're going to be a little bit surprised if you look into your testosterone level. I'll bet it's low.
Yeah, so I already got some.
Okay.
And then I got the test. I don't remember where it ended up at.
Yours was similar to mine, like 250 to 280.
Yeah, I thought it was just a tad higher.
320, something
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
like somewhere like to where it's decently like where it's in the normal range, but it's on the lower side of the normal range. And so then they basically suggested that I get on it, and then I was like, I don't know, and I was kind of nervous because I just heard all this different
Like
stuff.
low 300s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy was like, yeah, just do it, and then I was like, I don't know, and so. Especially injections, that sounds horrible. But
It's not.
Where would somebody get peptides and stuff like that if they wanted to? Do you recommend a doctor?
So Ways to Well is probably one of the better ones out there right now that I know of. Compounding pharmacies, definitely. There are websites that I have used for research purposes only. Peptide Sciences is probably one of the better ones. So, and you can get just about everything through them, and I know a lot of people who do. I don't know if you guys follow Ryan Humiston or not in his YouTube channel, but Ryan put up a video about him, I want to say about a year ago, and so I started looking into him. And excellent company, good products. I've done several different experiments with their stuff, and it's proved out pretty good. But yeah, for that, if it's not going through a compounding pharmacy, I definitely for research purposes only.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to look up. I actually have it, so I'll look up what it is. I'm kind of curious just to see where my testosterone stuff come in at, but...
Yeah. And not just testosterone, but you also need to know what your estrogen levels are, what your total and free test is, because those are two different numbers.
Yeah, my
And they
total
mean
and free
two different
test
things.
was quality. They were like, your total and free test looks good.
Yeah, right.
But your, was it serum testosterone is
Serum
low?
testosterone,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
is
said
low.
that's
Yep.
low.
So if your free testosterone is still within the normal range or high, even though your overall testosterone is low, that's not such a bad thing. Now, for longevity purposes, it's something you're going to want to have to monitor and pay attention to. But for the immediate, as long as your free test is within range, you're okay. You probably don't need to go on anything if you really don't want to. So to Dakota's point, if he's really nervous about doing that right now, because if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
29.
Okay. So you're still a very young guy. You've got a lot of years left. I don't know that I would if your free test is in range. I think I might put that off for a little bit. Now, peptides, again, totally different compound for a totally different reason. That is something that you could start using almost immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you just get it on Ways to Well?
Yeah, Ways to Well. There's a couple of different places. Rogan had a guy on. His guy was from Tijuana, Mexico. But they did stem cell, they do TRT, they do a lot of different things. So there's a lot of information out there that you can get. Ways to Well is the one that I know about because a friend of mine brought it to me that, it's a new clinic out of Texas. They do stem cells. So I was looking into stem cells. I don't know if you guys know. I've had 3 elbow surgeries having my
Holy crap.
triceps tendons reattached because, years of doing dumb stuff happens. But stem cell is something relatively old in the medical community, new to the general population. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking into it, and that was one that came up because they used naive stem cells versus coded. Mm-hmm. Naive stem cells are umbilical stem cells that have not been coded. They hold wherever you put them. They don't last. I'm sorry. Let me back up. When you use a coded stem cell, it's already coded to a certain part of the body when they use your own. If you use a naive stem cell, like they're going to inject it into my elbow joints, I stand a much better chance of those stem cells becoming soft tissue cells or whatever the area of my body is that needs to be rebuilt versus coated stem cells.
How do you get that done? How do you have a conversation with your doctor about stem cells?
So my doctor is awesome. Trevor Vanderhorst is his name. He's with Parkview right here in town, and he is very, very progressive when it comes to the kind of care that he provides. He does not like pharmaceutical companies. He's not a pill-pushing doctor like a lot of them are. And he doesn't go with old-school protocols. He understands that, we live in a different world now. We have different technologies. So he recommended me researching some of this stuff, and he kind of pointed me in the right direction. And so I just started asking questions. So, and and then, like I said, a friend of mine brought me that Ways to Well. They heard it on a podcast. So, yeah.
We're getting close to the end of the podcast here. I want to stay on time. We could keep talking about this for a while, I'm sure. You have the opportunity right now to fast forward to the end of your life. So maybe you're 100 years old, you're on your deathbed, your family's around you, and you have one final message that you get to share with the world. It's unique to you, and it's something people would point to and be like, oh yeah, Lonnie would say that. So it's your legacy message, how you want people to remember you, your message to the world, the final thing that you get to say. It's something that's meaningful to you, that you think that folks need to hear. And it could be a mantra, it could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph.
Okay.
It's your last message.
I wouldn't say it's a mantra. Money doesn't matter. Time is the only thing you can't get back. Use every single second to the best of your ability. Because when it's gone, it's gone. I was 25 a week ago. I turned 50 next year.
Wow.
So, I look back on all of the things that I've had the opportunity to do and the amazing people that I've had the opportunity to meet throughout my life. And I regret almost nothing because I literally did everything I could to get where I am now. And I made mistakes. I was homeless twice. I ended up homeless twice. And, but I built back, and I learned from it. It's been a journey like I never thought I could have, but it's amazing. So that the money isn't the most important thing. The amount of people you can impact, the amount of lives that you can change just by being you.
Awesome. How can folks get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
Oh, geez. There's a lot of different ways. Easiest way is Facebook, just Lonnie Whitlock. Instagram, Lonnie Whitlock. TikTok, Lonnie Whitlock. Or through ISG Fitness, through our website, isgfitness.com. And then I think it's Iron Society Fort Wayne for our Facebook and our Instagram page. So, yeah, I'm very easy to get a hold of.
Lonnie is Lonnie. Whitlock is WHITLOCK.
Yep.
You have any final thoughts that you want to share with our viewers before we?
No, I just appreciate you guys inviting me. This was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah,
I like this.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah,
and then giving us some advice on peptides. I'm gonna keep looking. I just spent the last 5 minutes, but I'll keep looking. I'll find out what it is, and then
Like I said, it's been around a long time, but it's amazing what it can do. I'm on a protocol right now. BenGreenfieldLifestyle.com.
Okay.
Ben Greenfield is probably the biggest, I hate to use this word, guru, but he has spent half his life studying peptides, and he's very, very knowledgeable. So if you get to go, BenGreenfieldLifestyle.com, there's all kinds of information on his website, and he is amazing when it comes to peptides. He even breaks down protocols depending on what you're looking for. If you need repair, if you need muscle building, if you need, I'm doing one right now called a Benjamin Button, which is I'm trying to reverse aging because I hate being old. But it's awesome. Great information.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.